In our last discussion, we looked at Adam Smith and the foundations of traditional economics. That foundation is based on the idea of laissez-faire, that if you leave the market alone, it will go to equilibrium on its own, and that equilibrium will be a good place, a place where the economy is stable, a place where resources are allocated efficiently, and where everything is good. Now, if you recall, we looked at this graph and we found equilibrium in a market for a good where supply equaled demand. And as long as that nothing in the market changed, we thought this was the correct price, this is the correct output, and everything is fine. Well, we have to realize that that doesn't always. Well, it happens, it goes to equilibrium, but is this price always a good price? Let's think about this. What happens if this is the the market for rice? Okay. And this is the price. And let's say the price is $5 a pound for rice. That's pretty expensive. And if we're a culture that rice is the main staple of a diet, then $5 a pound, even though it's this equilibrium price, this may be way too high for people in our market to be able to afford it. So although this is equilibrium and supply equals demand and it's a great thing, economically this is a good place to be. But socially, is this a good place? If we've got a good majority of our people can't afford to buy something that's considered a staple of their diet at this price, is this price good? What happens if this picture here is the market for labor and our equilibrium is $5 an hour for the wage? Is that good? Just because that's where supply equals demand? Is $5 an hour a good price for labor? This is one of the things that economists have a problem with. Our theory tells us one thing, but us as members of a society have a problem. We're concerned by this equilibrium. And so there are times when, as economists, we realize maybe we need to intervene in the market. And that's what this graph is showing us. We have options. As a society, if we feel that this price is too high, in the case of rice, then we could impose what we call a price ceiling. A price ceiling is legally the highest price that you can charge for a good. We always put a price ceiling below equilibrium because remember, this is the highest price we can go. If we were to raise the price ceiling, if the price ceiling were here above equilibrium, then the market, if it can go to equilibrium, will go to equilibrium. So the price ceiling, the highest price we can charge, as a society, we put it below equilibrium so that more people can buy the good. Well, what's the impact of that? When we put a price ceiling in, at this price, go over to the supply curve, and this is the supply. Prices drop, so producers are willing to supply less. But also, what happens to demand? demand now goes up. And we go over to the demand curve and we see this is our demand. By lowering the price, we have increased the demand for the good, but we've also decreased the supply of the good. So we have a shortage of the good. And this is wasteful. People are looking for a good they're not going to find. So from an economic perspective, this isn't good. And from a social perspective, it may be good, right? Because now the people who can get the good are getting it at a lower price. But you also have people who are looking, who were getting it before, who can't get it now. And there are people who didn't have it before who still can't get it. All right. The flip side of this coin would be a price floor. A price floor is defined as the legal minimum that you can charge for a good. All right. In this case, an example of a price floor is minimum wages. By law, unless there are certain circumstances, and we could talk about those, but a price floor is the lowest. A minimum wage is the lowest that you can pay a worker. Now, when we put in place an artificially high price, what happens in the market? Well, at this price floor, if we go over to the supply curve, we can see how much is going to be supplied. So you raise the price of the good, and of course, more is going to be supplied. But so in the case of a minimum wage, as you raise the price of labor, more people are going to look for jobs. There's going to be a higher supply of workers. But as you raise the price of a good, how much is going to be demanded? Demand is going to drop, right? So we were here at equilibrium. And now, so we see now quantity demanded drops, quantity supplied goes up. When supply is greater than demand, we have a surplus. So we've got more people, if this is a minimum wage, we've got more people looking for jobs than there are jobs available. So as an economist, I can argue that going to equilibrium is the best place for the market. But from a society perspective, this may be not the good place to be. Now, this presents a problem. If, as a member of a society, I'm part of a debate which talks about price ceilings and price floors, as an economist, I say they're bad. They cause surpluses, they cause shortages, they cause resources to be inefficiently allocated. But as a member of society, I can see that this equilibrium may not be good for some people in our society. So what do? Do we go to some inefficient point and realize that by doing so, we create surpluses of goods and shortages of goods, and then society has to deal with those surpluses and shortages? Or do we have faith in the market and just stick with the equilibrium? That's a question that society has to answer. We have to have a long, hard look at this market economy that we think is so great. Well, not all economists have looked at the market economy and thought it was great. In our next lecture, this is a short one for now. In our next lecture, I want to turn and look at Karl Marx and his interpretation of the market economy and why he felt it was bad. Okay?